The New York Jets again fail to score a touchdown. They fall to 0-7. The biggest question right now, who's going to be the quarterback this week and also next year? Will it be Oregon's Dante Moore, South Carolina's Lenora Sellers, Indiana's Fernando Mendoza, or fill in the blank? Thanks for joining us here on Flight Plan. Tim McMaster along with Zack Rosenblatt. Please like the show, whether you're watching, listening. We welcome the baggage handlers to the live stream here on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review. And Zack, I feel like just that intro, I feel like I didn't have the energy I usually do.
Well, you and the Jets and the fan base, like we're all on the same team with the energy. So
we're all in this together.
Yeah, except for the Jets with the fans, I would say. But
yeah. Well, that's fair. How are you doing after watch? I guess the traffic was good, right? Getting in and out of the stadium.
It was really easy getting into the stadium. I want to preface that by saying I'm not criticizing the fans for not showing up.
Oh, yeah, we did say that last week. No blame for not going to these games.
I always try to, because sometimes when you like tweet something like, wow, it's empty here today, fans are like, yeah, what would you do, prick? And the reality is I'm both happy that I didn't have to deal with traffic while also understanding why fans are not showing up. And the crowd that was like, the Cowboys crowd was pretty heavy on Cowboys fans. But this crowd was not, because Panthers fans, I don't think, care as much about their team either.
They are not America's team.
Yeah. So I don't know. I expected it to be bad. It was bad. They were probably like at half capacity for the stadium. And I would guess a lot of fans left by halftime, even though it was a close game. Like, that's why part of my story I wrote off the game was that while there were boos at the end of the game, they weren't like the loud sort of boos you would expect for a team that's 0-7. And that's because, you know, indifference has kind of taken over, and that's worse than anger, because fans are just indifferent. They're not even emotional about it. I mean, everybody's angry, but I think everybody's just like, this is who we are. Like, we're a mess. Yeah. Acceptance. It's bad, man. Like I'm currently in a argument with Connor about whether or not they're going to go 0-17. I don't think they will, but the fact that like I can't rule it out completely is shows you the state of affairs right now. I mean, they were only down by like a touchdown for most of the game yesterday. It never felt like they were actually in it somehow. So like, for that to be the case is just a real sad reality that they haven't scored a touchdown in a few weeks. They have one touchdown, I think, in the first 3 quarters all season. And I believe most of their touchdowns they've gotten in the fourth quarter have been when they've been down by double digits. So it's just a full-on disaster. The offense this feels more like the Saleh era now, when they didn't have quarterbacks and their defense was dominating, and it didn't matter because the offense was a disaster. So, you know, we're going to get into all of it, but suffice to say, like, I feel all of your pain. This is depressing. It's boring. They're not even entertaining bad. They're just boring bad now. So like, I don't really know what you have to cheer for as a fan base right now. And I get the lack of optimism going forward. I get why people think he should be one and done. But all I can say is, like, as we sit here right now, like, this is as bad as it could possibly be. And that's I was relatively optimistic on Glenn. I didn't think they were going to be a great team this year. I said 7 wins, I believe, before the season. I mean, they're not going to sniff 7 wins now. They have 7 losses already. Like, this is like, I don't know. I didn't expect to be in the middle of October saying, I think we have to get Dane Brugler on the pod like ASAP. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Logically, you assume that a team is going to win a couple of games, because that's just generally what happens. Very rare that there's a winless team in the NFL. But then you look at the schedule and you're like, where does the win come from? It's kind of hard to pick it out. So it's going to be interesting. They'll get the bye week after this Sunday. Maybe that helps to have 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent. Who knows? Let's get into the 4 downs. This is the 4 down edition. Means we're going to step on 4 specific things. I think the first down is going to dominate the majority of the time here, and that is the quarterback change, which led to some more yards, some more mistakes, not really anything better. So here you go. Justin Fields, 6 for 12, 46 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. That's a 59.7 rating. Tyrod Taylor, 10 of 22, bad percentage, 126 yards, because he will sling it, but 2 interceptions, one of them bad, one of them a great defensive play, both of them by J.C. Horn, and a 25.9 rating. So Fields actually rated out better as far as that formula goes. I would say the offense looks slightly better with Taylor, but then he made the mistakes that made them end up not scoring any points anyway. So in my mind, Zach, it was a wash pretty much these two quarterbacks. I think you got to go with Taylor on Sunday probably, but we'll get into that. But first, just your take on being there and seeing both these guys out there.
I mean, it was clear from the very beginning that Fields had no business being out there anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like he took a shot down the field, but it was almost as if he was just throwing it up for the sake of doing it. Like he was under pressure. He hadn't been hit yet when he got rid of the ball. He threw it into double coverage where Arian Smith was being covered by 2 guys, and it wasn't even close to him anyway. Other than that, it was all the same stuff. I saw a stat before. I think I saw it last night when I was looking at Fields' stats for the season. He's last in the NFL among qualifying quarterbacks in terms of throws beyond the sticks. AKA all of his throws go under the first down marker. And I mean, it's hard to watch. Like, I don't know what he's thinking when he's out there. I don't think the offense has ultimately been built in a way to make him succeed either.
Which was the whole thing the staff said coming into the year, was that they were going to like make it off.
Well, the quote was they're going to let him play quarterback is what they kept saying. As it turns out, he's not very good at playing the quarterback position, and he's not running the ball. They're not doing a lot of design runs. They had one early in the game that led to the roughing the passer where he had to leave for a couple plays.
Schlereth spent like by the way, Chris Myers and Schlereth spent the first how much of this game, like a long time, just saying like they need to do a design run. They need to do a design run. He just kept saying it. And then they finally do it, and Fields gets drilled. And I thought he was going to be done for the day with a concussion, but he came back in.
Yeah. I mean, and they're not getting him out on the move. They're not designing shots downfield. I will say Fields, while a very nice kid, and I think he means well and everybody likes him, like, I don't think he's particularly good at taking accountability for being bad. Like, if you look at his press conferences after these games, like, he was asked about not taking shots downfield. He's like, well, they didn't call any shots downfield, was basically his answer. And he doesn't seem to believe that he deserved to get benched. And I'm like, bro, you had 40 yards at halftime, like a week after having -10. Like, this is the worst passing offense in the NFL, and you're at the head of it. Like, I mean, I would think this would be the last time we see him as a starting quarterback, but weird things happen around the Jets. So whether, Glenn hasn't committed anything, so anything's possible. I will say Tom Pelissero, a national guy, sometimes they're told these things by the teams. I'm not saying he was, but he tweeted something basically of when the Lions were 0-6 in 2021, Dan Campbell, kind of called out Jared Goff and they didn't bench him. And then look what happened. Well, this is not the same situation. And if I just cannot imagine the reception if Justin Fields is the starting quarterback again this next week.
Jared Goff, by the way, had played in a Super Bowl,
and he had been to 2 Pro Bowls. Yeah. So this is a larger conversation, and maybe we do it on the pod later in the week. But like the idea, them pinpointing or Aaron Glenn pinpointing Fields as a quarterback he wanted. If you wanted to run the Lions offense, he was not the right fit for it. And I don't know that there was a great fit out there, but it was not him. Like, it's a timing based offense where you just need to get to your spots. And, the idea is you try to make it so the quarterback doesn't have to make a lot of decisions and all that stuff. But Fields is a mobile quarterback who can't do anything beyond his first read. And he's been that his whole career, and he still is that. And so they bench him. Tyrod comes in, and this is kind of the bad Tyrod that you're going to get sometimes. There's the really good and there's the really bad. And the really bad is he's definitely not afraid to take shots. They're not always good shots. Like, he had Alan Lazard, of all people, like wide open on the trick play flea flicker thing, and he underthrew it. I think he underthrew Josh Reynolds on that play that J.C. Horn intercepted, though it was a great play on the ball by Horn. And he had another pick later that was he was attacking J.C. Horn one-on-one with Josh Reynolds. Don't really understand that. And that's kind of who he is. He's gonna run around. He's gonna hold on to the ball a little too long, but he's gonna air it out. Players love playing with him, and the offense was moving better with him in there. Like, it felt like they had an offense. There's a lot of other issues coaching wise we're gonna get into on 4th down, so I won't step on that territory. But you can't play Fields anymore. I don't know what you do going, like Tyrod doesn't stay healthy. So like, let's say they do go to Tyrod this next week, and let's say at some point in the next few weeks he gets hurt. Do you go right back to Fields, or do you turn it over to let Brady cook and see what the undrafted rookie can do? I mean,
Wow.
it always felt like we were headed towards Brady Cook starting at some point this season and just putting him on the list of quarterbacks that have started for the Jets since Joe Namath or whenever you want to go back to. Like, it just feels like he's going to be on that list, in the, the Luke Falk, the Bryce Petty, the like all these like low level guys that got starts for this team because of injuries and of terrible play. But
By the way,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, speaking of like weird quarterback shifts, Zach Wilson has been the backup in Miami all year, right? Before the game yesterday,
He was demoted.
They switch him and put Quinn Ewers as the backup, and then they pull Tua, and Quinn Ewers gets to play the fourth quarter and not Zach.
Yeah, not them demoting Zack without him ever seeing the field this season is
and then going to the backup who isn't him.
It was funny for that to happen. But so what I wrote about, and you can read it on The Athletic last night, was basically like the Jets are back where they've always been, looking ahead to the next guy. It's always the next guy is going to be the one to fix it. And as I said, like, say what you want about Fields, and I know he was a flawed quarterback coming in, and maybe they overpaid him. I don't ultimately think this contract was debilitating. I don't think the numbers on everybody's overanalyzing the money. Maybe they were bidding against themselves, and you could criticize them for that, but you paid him $20 million last year. He's $10 million to guarantee next year. That's good backup money, bad starter money, and that's what he is ultimately. But I didn't blame them. Like I said in the article, I didn't blame them for going after Aaron Rodgers in 23. Like, for all that happened after that, they were a team that felt like they were quarterback away. He was the best possible one on the market. You aim high. Guys like that don't usually want to come here. So I didn't blame them for what they did. A lot of the moves they made after were bad, but I don't blame them for that. I didn't blame them for moving on from Aaron Rodgers, and I didn't blame them for trying to get a lottery ticket with Justin Fields, a guy that, you see all these former first-round picks around the league, a lot of them who started here, becoming good when they get another chance and they get put in a better environment. They thought they could do that for Fields, but as it turns out, he kind of falls in line more with history, where if a guy is not a certain level of competent through, I think it's like 3 years usually, then he's probably never going to be competent, and that's who Justin Fields is. I think he could be a really good backup for somebody. He just cannot be the Jets starting quarterback.
All right, second down, switch to the other side of the ball. We actually have a couple of positive downs here, despite the game going the way it was. The next one is the defense. For the second straight week, this looked like the defense that we've kind of become accustomed to seeing the last few years. A defense that kept them in the game when the offense could do nothing. They lost Sauce Gardner in this game. He went into concussion protocols. And I thought they actually showed to have some sort of depth in the secondary because they still played well. And that was a positive to me. I don't know if you got a Sauce update today.
I do. Oh, he is in concussion protocol, which usually when
probably doesn't play. Right?
Yeah, like I think the numbers are pretty high that they don't play the next week, but not 100% of the time.
Especially with the bye week to follow an 0-7 record.
Yeah. Though this game of all games to not have Sauce is pretty rough. We'll talk about that later in the week. But I mean, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But Sauce, he was targeted once and didn't give up a catch. So people want to say all they want about him not getting picks. Totally fair. But he was targeted one time in this game. So which means he dominated his side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like Bryce Young's especially good. I'm sure they told him not to throw it wherever Sauce is, but he had a good game. Malachi Moore had a really good game. He seems to be. They benched Tony Adams last week. Tony Adams doesn't even play anymore, which is what it should have been probably from the get-go. And Malachi Moore's looked pretty solid. Kiko Mauigoa, I think he looks like a guy that is at least playable at linebacker. The defensive line has played better. They got 2 sacks, I believe. Their first time getting multiple since like week 1. Jermaine looks good. Like the defense, Brandon Stevens. We haven't had to talk about him since like week 2 or week 3. And he's been really, really, really solid, good tackler, and kind of playing up to his contract to a degree, honestly, because I don't think it was a huge contract for a number 2 corner. Is he as good as DJ Reed? No, but he's doing the job. Brownlee, I don't think was as good this game, but broadly, like the defense did their job. They held them under 200 passing yards. They did a good job against Chuba Hubbard. For some reason, the Panthers were not just giving the ball to Rico Dowdle, even though he was clearly the better running back again. They started Chuba Hubbard after those 2 weeks Rico Dowdle had, but Yeah, they didn't force a turnover though. Like if you want to criticize them, you start there. They have one turnover forced this season, and it was in the first quarter of the London game that they lost. So they still have forced turnovers. They still need to get more pressure on the quarterback, I would say. But Steve Wilkes has shored things up, and this defense looks decent now. I mean, we need to see it against quality opponents, and you could argue the next one is based on who is on their offense because they have a really good running game and passing game. I mean, they at least have talent in the running game with Chase Brown. So I think next week's a really good test, especially if Sauce doesn't wind up playing. But Steve kind of saved his job the last 2 weeks, I would say. And whereas the flip side, which we'll talk about in the fourth down, Tanner, I think, has gone in the other direction, and that's been concerning. But yeah, solid performance from the defense. Back-to-back weeks where they held the opponent to 13 points and lost, which I know Rich Cimino always has great stats about this. He had a good one about that on his Twitter. I'm sure you can imagine what it is, because it's usually just no team has done that since X year. But this is where the Jets are. It was funny. I just thought of this. The Broncos-Giants game was insane on Sunday.
Speaking of things that had never happened.
But it made me think JFM. So I was listening on the radio on the way home from the Jets game, and there's a 4th and long, which the Giants complete, and the Broncos are called for roughing the passer. I'm like, it's got to be JFM. I just 100% know it's gonna. And then it was. I didn't watch the clip. Apparently, it wasn't a great call, but it just made me think. He had a couple of those.
I thought it was fair.
Yeah. Okay. But it was just really funny because in my head, I'm like, they're 100%. Then they're like John Franklin Myers roughing the passer. So there you go. A little memory for 23.
NFL teams with 18-point leads and 6 minutes to go had won 1,602 consecutive games.
Amazing.
Until the Giants. I mean, 33 points in the fourth quarter. Anyway, that's another game. All right, another positive from Sunday, and really for the whole season. Unfortunately, it's not going to get you in the win column, but the kicking game is just really good. Nick Folk, 2 for 2 again. He's just like automatic. 47-yard long one. And then Austin McNamara, as far as the punting game, and he gets a lot of chances, obviously. 5 punts for 243 yards. That's a 48.6 average. And he dropped 2 of them inside the 20. He ran 1 right out of bounds, 56 yards. The kicking game has been very good. Unfortunately, you got to score touchdowns in this league, and you don't want to punt as much as they are punting.
Well, not only that, but and again, I'm really bad about not stepping on other categories, but we'll talk about this in the next one. But there was a 4th and 5 where they went for it when I thought they should have kicked the field goal. So, get the points when you can't score. But if it was 4th and shorter, we'll get into that. But anyway, yeah. I mean, this calls to mind like the prime of like 2023, 2022. I think Zerline was there in 22. Like the Zerline Morstead prime, where it was like they were their 2 best players on offense and defense for a few weeks. It feels like that again. I mean, McNamara this is his first like NFL season, and he's just been absolutely dynamite with field position. Sometimes it hasn't mattered when the defense was struggling, but yeah, I mean, and Nick Folk being automatic just kind of calls into question a lot of decision making Aaron Glenn's had at these end of halves and end of game situations. And I will say, in terms of special teams, I think Chris Banjo and Joe Caporoso kind of called this out on Twitter. I saw, if you remove his love for Isaiah Williams, which I don't really understand why he keeps going to him, because Isaiah had a moment in the game where he like cut in front of Kene Nwangwu and then had a bad return. And in that play, Kene Nwangwu suffered a concussion. So it was just a sequence of bad events. Kene Nwangwu cannot stay healthy despite being like just a stellar, like one of the best kick returners I've seen, but the guy can't stay healthy. But other than that, like the special teams coverage, the special teams kicking and punting, a lot of the stuff that Chris Banjo, the buttons he's been pushing has been good. And that's their best unit, I think. And it has been consistent since week 1. So, we're raving about special teams. It's another year that starts in a number, I guess.
Starts in a number. All right. We're going to end the way we seem to always end these things, and that is questionable coaching decisions. I don't know where you want. Let's start with, they let the clock run out again at the end of the first half. Like he said, I should have thrown a Hail Mary last time. And then same situation, sack, and he just lets the clock run out.
It's trying to see if I have the quote here from him on his explanation. Guys, it was a situation where we just got 2 sacks. So let's get out of it. Let's get out of it and get to halftime and get ready to play the next half. That's the same BS excuse he had last
No,
week.
let's
Like,
throw the ball towards the end zone and see if you can just get lucky and maybe score
well,
a touchdown.
not only
'cause
that,
the
but
offense isn't going to score a touchdown any other way.
so I wasn't watching the TV copy that closely, but somebody said that the ref went up to him thinking that he was going to call timeout, and that Glenn kind of waved him off because they were just going to go into the locker room. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, it's frankly, and I'm not trying to be too harsh, but it's such like loser behavior to just like give up all the time. Like, you guys are 0-7. Like, what are we doing? Like, throw a Hail Mary. Like, I know they have the fail Mary. That was before his time, and Tim Boyle's not the quarterback anymore. Like, are you so scared of Fields throwing the ball at that point that you just refuse to even do a Hail Mary? Like, what are we doing? Put in Tyrod for that. He'll throw it. Like, it's a small thing, and it's a simple thing. You just do it, and it's incomplete probably, but you just do it anyway. So, like, the players
because once in 100 times it's a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, and the players want to do it too. Like, they don't want to just let's just get out of here. Like, that's not the way you should be. And then, the flip side is, so I criticized this, and some people did, some people didn't. The 4th and 5 in the first half, they get into, I think they were at the 33-yard line, and they went for it and failed miserably because I think it was a bad play call. Everybody's like, well, they're 0-7. What do you have to lose? Well, you have another game to lose. Like, they should be trying to win. This team does not score points, and you have a kicker who's a dynamite. And Aaron Glenn just yelled at us last week about how Nick Folk's line is 35. Well, it was at the 33. So, kick the field goal, I know it wouldn't have mattered in the end of the game, clearly, but like, you can't get in the end zone anyway. And 5 yards feels like an eternity for this offense. If it was 4th and 3, maybe I'm not saying that. If it's 4th and 2, 4th and 1, sure, go for it, be aggressive. But 4th and 5, I don't know. It's not the end of the game. It's early in the game. Kick the field goal, get the points. There's so many things and we could just get in some of the other things. Like Tanner Engstrand, I tweeted this earlier. Maybe I'll pull it up right now. Like, they spent all offseason telling us about how they're going to be the coaching staff to finally like unlock Breece Hall as a pass catcher, and they're going to really utilize his skill. Like, we can split him out wide. He can run all the routes. He got banged up before halftime, but he was ready to play the second half. He barely was on the field in the fourth quarter. Over the whole game, he had 3 targets, 2 catches. And then I pulled this up. So Glenn's quote in the offseason, there was quotes about how he like told Breece, we're going to get you the ball. He said, we're going to open his game up a bit. He's the type of guy you can split out wide and let him run the route tree because he can run it like a receiver. He's run 112 routes this season, which is 17th among running backs. At the same time, last year, he was first among running backs in routes run. And only 1.8% of his routes have been screen routes, which is 47th of 62 running backs. So they're not doing the screen game at all, even though the blitzes are working. They got sacked again 6 times. I think the Panthers had 6 sacks all season before this game. You and I talked before the game about how we didn't even know.
Now that's a tradition, right? The Cowboys like doubled their sack total for the season. Now the Panthers have done the same thing.
Yeah. So the decision-making is baffling, and you could blame the quarterback of it all, but this is the quarterback Aaron Glenn wanted. Not only that he wanted, but that he angrily was like, what kind of question is that? When we asked if he's going to get benched, the cause asked when he's going to get benched last week. Well, 2 quarters later, you benched him. So it wasn't that bad of a question. So
maybe you guys put the thought in his mind.
So what I would say about Aaron Glenn, and I'll have more thoughts on our pod later in the week and on Jets' final drive with Connor, but it just feels like he's learning on the job to a degree that I don't think anybody expected. I don't think he expected. I think he came in with maybe a little bit too much cockiness with how this was going to go, and he just does not seem ready a lot of the time to make the right decisions, to do the right things. And this coaching staff seems lost in a lot of ways on Sundays, and you can keep blaming the players for not executing, but at a certain point, it falls back on the coaching staff for not having them prepared. And I know they're the Super Bowl champions from Wednesday to Friday, but you play the games on Sunday, so maybe your practices aren't going as well as you say they are.
So the chat is turned on Aaron Glenn. That's pretty clear. But Christian A says in the chat, has the locker room turned on Glenn? It does not seem that way from the outside, at least.
I don't think they've turned on him, but even worse than turning on him would just be indifference. Like, I'm not saying these guys don't care. There are definitely guys that, like, Jermaine Johnson cares, Garrett Wilson cares, John Simpson cares. Like, there are guys in there that do give a shit. Like, I don't think you could say these guys don't give a shit. I mean, I think the energy is sometimes lacking on the sideline, and that goes back to me saying about how I don't think they have a leader and energy guy. But I don't think they've turned on Aaron Glenn fully. But, the more you lose, the less players are going to want to listen to you, the less your message is clearly getting through. You could say all you want about how hard they practice. You don't let us out there to watch it, so I don't know that that's true. We'll take your word for it because we don't see it on Sunday. So, I'm sure there are guys that would love to get traded before the deadline. And maybe that has more to do with the organization than specifically Aaron Glenn. But, this is worse than it could ever have possibly been in my mind. And, I wrote, and again, this is something we can talk about later in the week more because I know we got to get out of here in a little bit. But I wrote about how he's not getting fired is the most recent thing I wrote. What I would say is if you go 0-17, anything is on the table. And if you go 1-16, anything is on the table. I still don't think he's getting fired. I don't think they're going to go 0-17. But the fact that I can't say that for sure is jarring.
And on that note, we're going to say goodbye. We'll be back later in the week. I think we teed up like 6 topics for later in the week during this podcast. So we'll have plenty to talk about, including a lot of looking ahead to not just the next game, obviously, but where they go from here as far as the season goes. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the 4 Downs edition of Flight Plan. And we will talk to you all soon. Hang in there. We had a good crowd today for the live stream, which you guys are the best. That's all I have to say about that. You guys are the best. We'll talk to everybody soon.